Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic, and I want to welcome you to my channel, Opinion Stated, where I give unfiltered, opinionated sports takes. Let's go. Yo, what's good, everybody? My name is Cosmic. I want to welcome you back to my channel, Opinion Stated. Man, I have an incredible episode for you today. I have been taking my time to actually put this episode together because if you've already seen the thumbnail, you know what direction I'm going into. I want to talk about young Laker basketball player Quincy Olivari, and I want to approach in speaking about Quincy and the opportunity that he has before him to make his hoop dreams come true. I want to talk about the nepotism angle because there's been a lot of obviously scuttle and conversation had around the nepotism angle with Bronny and LeBron James pulling strings to have Bronny signed to the Lakers to play basketball in this impending 2024-2025 season. We understand for those who do not, that Bronny was drafted out of USC after a subpar season as a USC Trojan where he only averaged 5 points a game. But that notwithstanding, Bronny was drafted number 55 overall by the LA Lakers. And then subsequently, prior to Summer League starting, Bronny James was offered a 4-year, nearly $8 million contract, let's just say, to be a member of the LA Lakers, for the foreseeable future, obviously, for at least the next 4 seasons. And, in the mainstream media, obviously, there's been a lot of coddling and a lot of LeBron deserves this, and a lot of the talk like nepotism's been around forever, and you know what I mean. It's been all this, I feel like, soft massaging of what most people have an issue with in terms of the nepotism. But overall, what we realize and what most people have been outraged about is just the fact that it's not cool, period. And especially because in these situations where nepotism is exercised, there's always a victim. And the majority of the time, we do not actually get a chance to hear or to meet, the victim. And so, not to get too far ahead of myself, but I just kind of wanted to give that brief kind of synopsis of how I got to this point of doing this, particular episode and producing this particular show. And so I'm going to entitle this show Quincy Olivari, The Tragic Reality of Victimization Through Nepotism, a Hoop Dream Deferred. So again, in going about, for this particular episode, I do want to make sure that I am clear that this will not be a Bronny James hate video. This is not a video where I'm going to drag Bronny because of his production on court. All those things I feel like are 100% clear. Everybody is aware of his scoring struggles and the things of that nature. So I don't want to approach this as a negative in that sense, where I'm just kind of taking a crap on Bronny, who's trying to kind of find his way here in the NBA. I think that the nepotism angle that is mostly disturbed me is that Bronny is not ready for this level, and given the fact that he was just a freshman at USC last season, the better option, in my opinion, would have been for Bronny to go back to return to school, right? Whether that was at USC or using the transfer portal to go to some other university where he could have just gotten more reps, more time, more training to get ready for basketball on the next level, which is the NBA level. And that's because that did not happen. That has created this space for, what is, most of the stomach churning discuss that I have had, surrounding the situation itself, and which many of you will probably agree. But not to belabor that point, I just want to kind of give those. So this is not going to be a Bronny slander video. It's not going to be a Bronny hate video. It's not going to be one of those videos where I do a hard comparison of Quincy Olivari's stats and Bronny stats, because as I've said in previous videos, stats can be telling, right? So stats can be very telling if we just sit here and break down some stats, but stats can also be misleading. So stats without context can be misleading. So where I do present statistics today, I'm going to make sure that you guys are aware that I'm going to give some context to the stats that I'm actually going to present. If I present them independently, I do have a bit of information I want to share with you that just kind of speaks for itself as well. And likewise, I want to get into a more comprehensive look so that if you're anything like me, before I begin to do the research for this episode, I was not aware of the specifics surrounding the NBA Exhibit 10 contract, and I wasn't really well versed on the specifics of a NBA two-way contract. So I'm going to present that information that we might take a more comprehensive look at what both those contracts, kind of mean for players. For those who did not know, also you will receive the education that I was able to receive by just doing some research. So I want to share that information with you all today as well. And without further ado, I want to talk about and celebrate Quincy Olivari. So this young man, Quincy Olivari, who wears number 41 now, who has made number 41 the talk of NBA or LA Laker, you know what I mean, like jersey numbers, where I've seen the tweets on X, or you know what I mean, the posts on X, where folks asking, who was number 41? Who was number 41? It's like it's almost become like a superhero slogan for this kid, which is it's super dope. Folks are wondering like, who is he? Because optically, we've taken a look at a 23-year-old young man who is from Atlanta, Georgia, plays point guard, and it is or was signed to an Exhibit 10 basketball contract with the LA Lakers to participate in their summer league and also through the preseason, given some stipulations, which we'll get into, here in just a second. But optically, what we've seen is a kid who seems to be very poised, very relaxed, very in his own skin, and who is ready to play on an NBA level. And so to that point, a lot of folks are, can clearly and have clearly gotten behind this young man in support of getting more minutes, wondering why and hoping, to God that this young man would not receive the short end of the stick when it comes to actually being signed to a contract and extending his young career and receiving the kind of attention from the organization and also the financial, means to, through contract, take care of his family and to live out his dream. And so that's a really feel good story that a lot of us have affectioned ourselves to. But let's dig a little bit deeper. Olivari played 4 collegiate seasons at Rice and 1 at Xavier. He led the Owls and was 3rd in Conference USA in scoring with 18.7 points per game, and was also 3rd in Conference USA with 94 three-pointers in minutes as well, with 33.6, 6th in field goal percentage with 41% field goal percentage, 9th in free throw percentage at 79%, and 11th in rebounding with 5.9 rebounds per game. His 94 three-pointers in a season are the second most in school history, and his 654 points are the 5th most in a season among the Owls. In his lone season as a Musketeer, Olivari appeared in and started 34 games while averaging 19.1 points, 5.6 rebounds, 2.1 assists, and 1.4 steals in 32.2 minutes. He finished the season as the Big East's leader in three-point field goal percentage with a 40.9, nearly 41% percentile shooting from three, and was voted Big East honorable mention for his play. So, you know what I mean? Just giving respect to those to those numbers or to that information, what we can glean from that clearly is the obvious. I mean, this kid played 4 years at Rice. I imagine the 5th season that he was able to play collegiately had something to do with his with the COVID year, so it gave him an extra year of eligibility. I could be wrong, but I'm just assuming because it wasn't stated here. but we're seeing a lot of that here over recent years. I think the same thing happened with Caitlin Clark, et cetera, right? So his play at Rice through 4 seasons was incredibly solid. You know what I mean? Like incredibly solid and then consistent. So 18.7 points a game is stated. And then consistently by the time he would enter one final season of collegiate play at Xavier, he's averaged 19.1 points a game. So 18.7 to 19.1, still relatively about the same. So this kid just could flat out get it done on the college level. Clearly playing amongst his peers. He was, you know what I mean? Like just able to get it done. And again, not to compare from a negative standpoint, I'm just speaking facts. We do know and understand that Bronny James, who has already been signed to a guaranteed contract with the Los Angeles Lakers, only averaged 5 points a game. Bronny is 20 years old. He just turned 20 a few Sundays ago. Quincy Olivari is 23 years old. I say that to point out, not just statistically, not just to compare their college stats and then to, do this weird comparison thing of their ages. But I do that because there are a lot of things about the NBA and the scouting process that I personally don't like. And, one, and, all with all due respect to it being a business and them making decisions for and toward the business the way that they want, meaning these franchises, I don't like this idea present day, that a kid like Quincy Olivari could spend 5 years in school, be a very solid basketball player, and then somehow that be used as a negative against him because of him being 23 years old. Teams may be feeling a little more reluctant to give him, an opportunity or extend to him an opportunity because they're thinking, well, if it takes us 3 seasons, potentially, I'm not sure, I'm not in those boardroom meetings, et cetera, but I'm just hypothetically thinking, out loud, right? As I surmise that maybe this is the reason for that, is they're thinking if it's going to take him 3 seasons to develop, then by the time we get this kid into the space of development where he'll be effective, then he'll be 26 years old, 27 years old. We don't really have a lot of time, with this player after having invested so much, meaning longevity wise in their career. Oddly enough, speaking longevity. So the a player like a Bronny James, because the same thing happened with Dalton Connect, I'll say, because of his age, a lot of people, and how long he stayed in college, a lot of people just kind of passed him up, which is really weird because Dalton Connect, also a member and teammate of Quincy Olivari, member of the LA Lakers, has been playing incredibly well, just like he did at Tennessee. You know what I mean? So again, I just don't like this whole notion. So it's a really weird thing that's happening in and around scouting and, obviously taking flyers on players to potentially develop them and bring them along in the process. But, they're more apt, it seems, to take a younger player like a Bronny to develop him, not nepotism, not, withstanding here in this situation. I know that the willingness to get Bronny on this team had, very little to do in reality, his age, right? This was a complete move, where LeBron James was able to manipulate the process and, his agent, Rich Paul, to get him signed to the LA Lakers. The reality is just reality. I'm not being negative about it. I'm just stating the facts, right? And so, anywho, I, in digging a little bit deeper to do some research on this subject, I wanted to fully understand who is Quincy Olivari outside of the college profile that I just read, outside of what we see on the court. Who is this kid and how and what is his story? How did he come to be a member of the Lakers? Not from just present day, but I just kind of want to back up to his entire draft process, how teams, could have missed, how scouts could have dropped the ball and not seen this kid, not recognized that he was a standout on the collegiate level, and how he got to this point. So I found an interview that Quincy did earlier in the summer with LakersNation.com, and I want to share with you it's about a 3-4 minute sound clip where he gives you the actual genesis of his journey. And so let's take a listen.
Hello, Lakers Nation. Welcome in. Trevor Lane here for LakersNation.com. Today we've got a special guest. It's Quincy Olivari of the Lakers. Welcome in, Quincy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'll be honest, that felt a little bit different. Normally I'm used to Quincy Olivari of Xavier University or Rice University. So that definitely Felt a little weird.
have you so you're still getting used to that part of it. Is there any part of that that is still a little bit surreal to you?
I mean, it definitely is a great feeling going to the facility every day and being able to walk through, saying my name at the gate, and they know who I am. Like I'm supposed to be there. It's a great feeling. And then just walking in there, walking to my locker in the locker room and getting dressed, talking to everyone in the facility. Everybody knows my name. It's as if I'm supposed to be there. I belong there. So it's a great feeling. It's not the same feeling I had walking in for my pre-draft workout, kind of introducing myself. It's almost as if I've been there for a minute. I'm just getting ready for a workout or for practice. It's a great feeling.
What was the process like for you ultimately to land with the Lakers? What did you go through from going through all the draft stuff to actually winding up with the team?
So I worked out for 10 teams and I worked out for the Lakers. And then that was my last workout was the Clippers actually. So I came out here for the Lakers and I had to schedule a Clippers workout again. I worked out for the Clippers twice, once a week prior or a week and a half prior. And then the Lakers wanted to bring me in and the Clippers also wanted to bring me in again. So we scheduled that to have those as the last two workouts. That process was fun. I left a lot of great impressions based on my feedback from my agent. Every workout, I had my suit with me. I carried my resumes for my interviews. If they didn't interview me at Portsmouth, I shot the ball fairly well in all of my workouts and just try to leave a good impression of who I was in the 40 minutes or hour I had at the workout. And as we near draft night one, I guess is I would say because it was 2 nights this year, we just kind of phoned around to I think it was the 10 teams or it might have been eight because I think a few teams just kind of had already given us the deal by that point and we kind of just categorized them out. But the Lakers, before we could even call other teams, the Lakers had already reached out to me and offered a deal, and we just kind of this day two, the morning of day two, we sat there, my agent, my mom and my dad, we sat there at a table at the hotel I was staying at, just kind of talked it out, what would be best. And going into the draft, we had an idea of what we were looking for, what would happen what we would do if certain things happened in the draft. And as the chips fell, we confirmed our decision.
So the Lakers got you on an Exhibit 10 deal, and it sounds like they wanted to lock you down pretty quick and make sure to show that they were very interested. How was that communicated to you? Like what an Exhibit 10 deal would mean for you and what the opportunities would be with the South Bay Lakers?
It just meant an opportunity to show the world that I belong. I've always thought that I belonged everywhere that I stepped foot, whether that was in high school, I feel like I could play on varsity, or when I got to college, I feel like I could make an impact at Rice, or when I got to Xavier, it was I can play at the high major level because I put the work in, I've matured, and now it's just I belong on the NBA team. I can play at that level. I learn. If I mess up, I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn from that mistake. I'm willing to work hard. And my skill set, my energy, and things like that are things that that can translate to the next level, which now is the NBA. So it was just I took that as it's an opportunity to continue to show the world. And when summer league goes around, just when my moment comes, be ready.
When my moment comes, be ready. So the first thing I want to say about Quincy Olivari is that this kid is his. I was incredibly impressed as I went through this interview with him at just how poised, how aware, how down to earth. You know what I mean? How grounded. When I say down to earth, like grounded in his beliefs and his plan. How focused he is and intent he is on walking a path because he's laid out a plan. He and his team, his family, his mom, dad, he mentioned, his agent. I'm not sure who his agent is, but again, I want to kind of go back to if you listen to, what he just said here, what I was saying prior to playing that soundbite, which was, how did the scouts, kind of foul this up, right? How did scouts not understand the value that this kid has as a young player? And clearly he's not the only, young, talented, promising athlete who was taken in this draft. There are a lot of kids who are clamoring right now, onto the hope of achieving their hoop dream, right? But as I speak about the victimization of nepotism and how we often, even though we understand that nepotism is a thing that plays out in many different, industry spaces or career spaces, we don't often get a chance to hear from or to see or to create the parallel between who would have been given an opportunity, meaning in Bronny James not having to compete. The most beautiful thing about sports, again, is competition. The competition does not just start when you put on a uniform and then you stand out in front of the opposing team who's come to your gym visiting to play against your team, or when you guys travel to an opposing gym. Competition starts in tryouts. Competition starts in tryouts. And then after we try out for the team, find out that we made the cut, and begin to practice with the team, competition starts against my teammates in order to sharpen us and to get us better and to earn starting a role or minutes on the team. If you've ever played sports, you understand exactly what I'm talking about here, right? So, to have this situation play out, and I can remember vividly Rich Paul saying, that, or being reported that Rich Paul said he did not want a two-way contract for Bronny. Rich Paul, his professionalism and in his with his acumen, flex as well. He was saying he wanted a guaranteed deal for Bronny, and maybe it's a conversation that needs to be had about representation. You know what I mean, versus what was being offered, or who's representing Quincy, versus who's representing Bronny. You know what I mean? That's to like, well, it's not my fault that he was able to get his. It's not Bronny's fault that his client, was able, or his agent was able to get him as his client a great deal, and Quincy's, wasn't. Let me also be clear in saying this as I bring up Bronny's name. I do not want people, just because they hear me saying Bronny, they're like, oh, you're hating on him, or you're being negative towards him, or I don't want it to get. I want people to have this sense, because there is no selective outrage in this content as I deliver it today. I'm not outraged. I'm not emotional about it at all. I just want to make sure that I present the facts and present an opinion based around the facts, so that you guys will understand, at least from the viewing here, where I stand and where many people stand, even if it's not you specifically. You know what I mean? So I just kind of want to objectively, do that. But this smoke is not for Bronny James. I'm not wishing Bronny anything negative on him. I'm not at all saying that, you know what I mean, like poo on the league now for allowing this to happen, et cetera, et cetera. I'm only pointing out the reality that he was given an opportunity that he didn't even have to earn through competition, as I just explained. Whereas Quincy, who we optically look at and feel like, even based on his from collegiate, play through present day, he might be more ready for a role in the NBA, wasn't given the opportunity, and maybe he deserved it, right? So that was him, kind of talking about this Exhibit 10, contract, and how he got to that point with the Lakers. I think that really quickly to wrap up, so I'm just not rambling on and on here. I found it most interesting, and or rather found it most interesting, he said he worked out for 10 different teams. When I heard that initially, as I was doing this research, I was blown away. I was like, man, 10 teams had the opportunity to see this kid, have him come in and work out. Clearly called him in, worked out for the Clippers twice, worked out for the Lakers twice as well. As he said, he had scheduled that second workout, and so came back and circled back to the Lakers, after the Clipper, second workout. And so I was just shocked. Shocked also because the Lakers were already aware of what their moves were going to be. They knew for certain that they were going to draft Bronny James with that 55th pick. So as Quincy mentioned, on the morning of the second day, they then reach out to him to let him know, like, hey, man, we can offer you this Exhibit 10 contract. So, you know what I mean? They hadn't drafted Bronny yet. So they could have looked at the two players and said, let's use the draft pick on homie instead of using it on Bronny. Ain't nobody going to pick Bronny up anyway. But they didn't. So Quincy Olivari went undrafted in this draft as well. And that, to me, I think, is the biggest tragedy. That is the biggest tragedy, because this kid is such a skilled basketball player. He is NBA ready based on optically what we've seen and how he fits and how he understands the game and how he plays when he's there. I am not suggesting that he does not make mistakes out there. as a young basketball player right now, there's no space for him to learn. I would never suggest that. Clearly, like my dad told me many years ago, man, once you know everything there is to know, you're going away from here. It's like, why are you here if you know everything already? And if you can't get any better, the process of life suggests that everything that stops growing dies. All right. So anyway, I wanted to point that out in that sound clip. And now I want to get into exactly specifically, again, a more comprehensive look into what this Exhibit 10 contract actually entails and what this means for those who have not done the research and who don't know. An Exhibit 10 contract is a one-year minimum salary, non-guaranteed NBA contract that teams use to evaluate players during Summer League. The contract can be converted into a two-way contract between the NBA and the G League before the regular season begins. Here are some key details about the Exhibit 10 contracts. The purpose: teams use Exhibit 10 contracts to evaluate players during Summer League. Salary: the contract is a minimum salary deal. Guarantee: the contract is non-guaranteed, but the team can guarantee it at any time. If the team doesn't guarantee it, it becomes fully guaranteed on January the 12th, should the player still be around on that Exhibit 10 contract. Bonus: the contract may include an optional bonus of up to $75,000 if the player spends at least 60 days with the team's G League affiliate after being waived. If the contract is converted to a two-way contract, the bonus is converted into compensation protection. Conversion: the contract can be converted to a two-way contract before the regular season begins. The team can have a maximum of 3 two-way contracts. Roster: a player on an Exhibit 10 contract becomes a standard minimum deal if they are kept on the 15-man roster past the start of the regular season. Number of contracts: a team can have up to 6 Exhibit 10 contracts at a time. So here's what I understood, from reading articles and doing research prior to or I would say after hearing that the Lakers had signed Bronny to his extensive deal. I understood that they didn't have any more available roster spots to sign anybody to the 15-man roster. So as we have affectioned ourselves to Quincy Olivari through Summer League and especially through preseason, it was clear to me that they didn't have any space for him on the 15-man roster. So he was destined for the G League. Backing up to the soundbite that we heard from him, he and his representation were also very clear on that. They were clear on that. The morning of, as they sat down as a family and, with his representation, they discussed it. What are the better options? What's the best thing to do? Hey, let's go ahead and sign this Exhibit 10 deal because at least it gives you, an opportunity to prove yourself. And he mentioned, proving himself because as he's proved himself from high school to saying that, hey, man, I'm bigger than JV. I can play varsity. Proving himself on the college level. Now he wants to prove in the space to prove himself here as a pro in the NBA. Again, with the outrage, it's hard for me. It was hard. Like, really, I wanted to be so. But as I listened to the interview, I was like, man, well, sounds like, again, through this awareness, space of awareness, they had been made aware of all these things. They had made decisions that were befitting the opportunity that was being presented to him. And that was just a better option for them to take. Clearly, they had no other option as far as it pertains to with the Lakers. And so there was an acceptance of that particular deal just to at least get him in a uniform and give him the space to prove himself. Moving forward, I want you guys to take a listen to Quincy Olivari because after signing that Exhibit 10 deal, it gave him now that proving ground, the space for the proving ground. So excited, obviously, he was to suit up with the team to play in the California Classic and also in the Vegas Summer League. Let's hear what Quincy had to say about his NBA Summer League experience.
So you get to Summer League and you're having this experience, your first experience in the NBA. Was there anything that surprised you that maybe you weren't expecting coming in?
How nice the 4 seasons is. No, I wouldn't say nothing surprised me. I knew what situation I was walking into. I just knew when my time came, I was going to be ready because have the right mindset of I'm gonna put in the work when I can, and I'm gonna remain positive. Whether that's Bronny's out there scoring, or our Mills out there scoring, or Blake's hitting 6 threes, like I'm happy for you because I know how it feels to be out there and your teammates on the bench cheering for you. Like I know how each role on a team feels. And I think Dylan Jones from the Thunder hit it perfectly on the head. Like being the guy taught me what I would need from other people. And like I've played every role on a basketball team. Like I've been a video coordinator, I've been a bench player, I've been a star player, I've been a role player. When I broke my wrist, I was a coach. Like I understand what each role takes and what it entails, and especially when you're not playing, it's easy to notice the guys moping on the bench, but the guys that are on the bench, like supporting the people that are in the game, in the timeouts, like active and paying attention, those guys always seem to come in the game ready. Like I've been at Xavier and I've got a break and I've been like, oh, so and so was active on the bench. Now they out there, they might make mistakes, but they're making mistakes playing hard or things like that. Especially nothing really caught me off guard except how much free time I had on off days and how nice the Four Seasons Hotel was.
So again, just him on his, wanting to be prepared when his time was when his number was called or his name was called, and also just in being a support system. And I really appreciated hearing more than, you know what I mean. I wanted to be ready, and I was just going to go in here and I was going to prove to everybody that I'm going to bust this person's ass and bust that person's ass, and I'm going to make him look crazy for doing this. His attitude, was still centered around even being a great teammate. I mean, what is there not to like about this kid? Even just want to be a great teammate. I found it interesting that he mentioned Bronny specifically to say if it's Bronny out there scoring, you know what I mean? Whether it's this person out there scoring or that person out there scoring, like I'm cheering for them because I understand what every role on the team feels like. And, when you play competitive sports, there's an element of competition, like I said, even in practice, where I'm competitive to push my teammates to get us to that point. But if I'm not on the floor, I'm not sitting over there like looking at my teammate on the floor playing like, ooh, brick it. Obi misses every shot tonight. You know what I mean? I'm even though we're playing the same position or playing in a similar role, I'm not wishing. I'm rooting for him too. I need him to make these shots and to play well. You know what I mean? So I'm not hoping that at some point this person plays horribly so that I can get in the game and show him that I could. You know what I mean? So I appreciate that about listening to Quincy Olivari spill here. And so I just wanted to make sure that I bring you all into the same space that I settled in to get out of this selective outrage about the nepotism. And I just wanted to point out, you know, the how the victimization of, the whole situation by and large can affect an individual. But I love that, as he said, as long as he approaches it with the right mindset and positivity, everything's going to work out for him. And it's in the summer league. In 3 summer league games played, Quincy Olivari averaged 8.7 points a game, 1.7 rebounds, 0.3 assists, on 34, nearly 35% shooting from the field, and over 30% shooting, or 30% shooting, a little over 30% shooting from three. He had a plus minus of +9 when he was on the court, so positively, leading to score increasing while I was out there, at least score maintaining a leading score over or edge over the other team. So again, in doing the comparison thing, I had to delete I made the decision, rather, I'll say I didn't have to, but I just made the decision to delete the Bronny James stat sheet because I was going to toss one up here and be like, hey, look at these stats. But I took that down for a reason because, first of all, to Bronny's credit, their numbers didn't look that drastically different. It's nothing about these numbers that are on paper here for Quincy Olivari matches collegiate stats that we talked about. It's not 19 points a game. It's not 18.7 points a game. It's, you know what I mean? Like he and Bronny averaged 0.1% more points through the summer league and more play. Granted, I think Bronny played in 4 games, but 8.8 points a game is what Bronny averaged. And again, stats can be telling, but stats without context can also be misleading. I think the thing that jumps off the page, even in comparison of these stats, is the higher 3-point shooting percentage. I think Bronny ended up shooting like somewhere around 12 or 13% from the 3-point line. This kid shot over 30, obviously. And Bronny's plus minus was like minus 19 or something like that in the summer league. But that's by virtue, obviously, of Bronny also, averaged somewhere around 35 minutes a game, 30 plus minutes a game. So Bronny was getting a lot of burn, you know what I mean, in the summer league, and clearly because he's LeBron James' son, and he was the hype of the this whole situation. I think they thought it was going to play out, utterly and completely different. But that is where instantly you kind of start to see, like, you have capable basketball players who played on the college level and who proved themselves, and they're not even getting the chance to play as much as this other huge developmental project that is this other kid that you spent the 55th draft pick on. So I wanted to point that out just to say, again, and speaking about Bronny, and because Quincy himself brought Bronny up, and then we just spent some time talking about it, I want you all to actually hear Quincy's take on being teammates with Bronny.
Let me ask you this. So there was a lot of attention on Bronny. How was that whole situation?
I mean, I I told myself, like he's probably had this since he could remember. The situation that he's in. I mean, you're the son of LeBron James, so everyone's gonna know who you are everywhere you go. And he managed it well. He was real cool with us, whether that was at practice or in the team meetings. We joked around, we're cool, but he never let that get to his head, and never felt like he was trying to make it seem like he was better than anybody. I'll definitely say that. Like, he was act like, if we switched roles, he probably would act like me and I would act like him. Like, you wouldn't even know that he had all these kids wanting his autograph. Like, he's a regular kid, and it was fun to be around, because those down to earth kids that are aware of their situation are always like real cool to be around, because they never let that stuff get to their head.
So he's just one of the guys.
Literally, he loves cars. We talk about video games. We talk about rappers. Like, talk about basketball. I mean, it's just a regular kid that happens to be the son of LeBron James.
So not a bad thing to happen to be. That's for sure.
Not a bad thing to happen to be, and that's for sure. So again, I wanted to just have people hear, Quincy's take on that. Obviously, understanding that he is blatantly and obviously a victim of nepotism here, and the decision being made to give an opportunity to, the higher up, you know what I mean, or the biggest, the cash cow for the team, the leader of the team in terms of play, being LeBron James, his father, or him in a space of, you know what I mean, his fatherhood, wanting this moment to play with his son and all these things, and how, the true victim here is Colin Castleton also, who was waived just a few days ago. You know what I mean, to make some room as well. So, you know what I mean. But Quincy specifically in this case, I just wanted him to express, as he's already, I want you all to hear him expressing, rather, as we've already heard him talking about his mindset and staying positive, his process for getting him to this point of signing that Exhibit 10 deal, playing in the summer league, mentoring into training camp, still being under this Exhibit 10 deal through the preseason, etc. But I want it, so, having the knowledge also that Bronny has already been signed to a guaranteed contract, and then what that looks like in comparison, and how he's just not taking it personal. He's still, he's just showing up to do his job, and positive, and in so doing. So I say all of that to say, I don't want it to be a thing where it's not Bronny's fault that he's the son of LeBron James. Not a bad place to be in. You know what I mean? The interviewer said, or not a bad thing to be, being the son of LeBron James. Bronny is benefiting, wholly from, a kind of a power, you know what I mean? Like, being exercised, that it's not on him. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that he is receiving a lot of the negativity surrounding it because of, being elevated into this position. Could Bronny have just said, nah, I don't want to do it, I'd rather earn it like everybody else? And would that have been heeded, in terms of his desire? Maybe, maybe not. But the reality is it's not Bronny himself that got him elevated into this space. And that's the unfortunate part about it, is that we can pick this kid's game apart. We can look at him optically and say he's not ready, but ultimately he didn't put himself in this position. And so, this I think points out, and I said this in a previous video, Bronny's the poster child for what's wrong with nepotism. And especially in this case of this episode, when you can contrast that with looking at a player like Quincy Olivari and say, well, this is the person who was actually maybe, worthy of this kind of an opportunity and who was working hard for and willing to work hard and earn it. And then he's not being extended this kind of an opportunity. You can understand, and it stands to reason why so many would be outraged, about it. But again, I don't do anything. I learned something from my dad many years ago. One, I don't run to fight, so I didn't want to be the first person to post a video, on the subject matter. And I saw a bunch of people doing it, but it wasn't necessarily a thing for me. Like, I gotta hurry up and get my 2 cents in on this. Like, no, I don't run the fights, you know. And then, secondarily, I don't lead with emotion. I try not to lead with emotion, at this stage in my life, because it is important to try to be as level-headed as you can, to try and understand both sides. The truth needs no support. It stands alone. But at the same time, I want to be clear and concise in how I deliver my opinion and my take, because at the end of the day, it's only my opinion, right? And so I want you all to hear from Quincy. We already heard from him. Now talk about his G League, or his summer league experience. The summer league team was being coached by a staff of coaches who, were the G League affiliate team, the team's coaching staff. So he got a chance to obviously work out with them and familiarize himself with them, starting in the summer league process. And so there was a bit of a coaching overhaul, so that coaching staff was fired, and a new coaching staff was brought in, since. And so I want you to kind of hear what Quincy's take is on that.
So you had Dane Johnson as your coach during summer league. The thought for a while was, okay, he's going to continue to be the South Bay Lakers coach. Now that's not going to be the case. Did that catch you off guard, or what are your thoughts on that transition?
Yeah, that one definitely hurt. I built a good relationship with the whole staff, especially since summer league. I've been up here since summer league, like at the facility every day, and seeing Coach Johnson, seeing Willie, seeing all those guys really up there at the facility every day. And then what was it, Saturday morning, 7 a.m., I got a text from Willie, who's like the person I was really close with because he's from Atlanta. So we just kind of bonded over where we were from. And he was just like, I'm gone. Like, you always got my support. I'm gonna miss you, bro. If you need anything, hit me. But I'm gone. God got us. And I was just like, I was up at like 7 a.m. to use the bathroom, and I just happened to glance at my phone. I saw he texted me, so I thought like it was something like he was trying to tell me as far as like the facility or some advice. And I read it, and it was just like, all I could say was, what? Like, he sent me a screenshot. And I was a little shocked, especially we ended the season, or the summer league season, 3-0, or 3-game win streak. But like I said, this is a business, and I can't control that. I can control my attitude and my effort, how I approach Monday workout, which would have been today, and coming in. Am I going to still be the same person, have great energy, approach the game the right way, and work hard? Or am I going to let that kind of bring in and affect who I am as a person? And that's not that wouldn't have been the right decision. So I still came in and worked hard. But at the end of the day, this is a business, especially when money's involved. I have to be prepared for a franchise to make business decisions, and I just have to live with it. Like, those are my bosses. Yeah. Those are that are making those decisions. I have no say in that. I am not going to throw a fit if something happens in the business. It's a business, but I can control what I can control, which is my attitude and my effort.
I can control what I can control, which is my attitude and my effort. At the end of the day, this is a business, and he understands it. And excuse me, it is what it is. Again, they knew what they were walking into. They, understand. I feel like this kid has already been through so much, right? From the negotiation and the understanding, and then the signing of this Exhibit 10 contract to get him into the summer league, to working out with these coaches, and building a relationship and rapport with, the coach. and with Willie, you know what I mean? And then to now, like, oh my God, they're not going to be here. Like what's going to happen? But at the end of the day, he understands that this is his job. And there's a whole business side, to this that is not personal, you know what I mean? In that regard, it's not personal for him, at least anyway. Or that at least he's not willing to take personally. And that is very admirable, So again, if I would have produced this episode on Saturday when the announcement was made, I would have given you guys all this outrage and smoke and all this stuff. But after listening to him talk, I'm just like, it's just impossible for me to just come in with all this visceral. I really just want to, I think respectfully, as I listen to him, understand his approach and understanding his approach. I want to make sure that I'm careful in how I use my platform and how I use my voice in communicating about this, whether I am online or whether I'm offline, to respectfully deliver my opinion in the energy that this kid has and with the focus, because armed now with this information, I can kind of diffuse some of the frustration and anger that most people have by saying, yeah, but this kid's mindset is incredible around it, and I can be excited about that. So hopefully I can transfer some of that, to them, right? And so kudos to Quincy and having this kind of mindset and mentality, man. Kudos to his parents who did a phenomenal job raising this young man. He seems very, very, again, just grounded in his beliefs and in his principles. He stands for something and he believes in it, and he's just going to trust, that God has his back, and that is beautiful, to see in a young man. Let's talk about, the preseason. And in the preseason, clearly after some leagues, started, and we're just wrapping up the preseason. We're on the brink of the 2024-2025 NBA season, which launches here in just a few days. But through the preseason, we see in 4 games, and these, again, stats can be telling, but without context can be misleading. So I'm going to give just a little context here. But 13.4 minutes in 13.4 minutes per game on average. He was able to average nearly 9 points a game at 8.8. Nearly 4 rebounds at 3.5, 1 assist on 52.5, nearly 53% from the field, and 57% from 3, plus minus a gross minus 19. But like, I don't think anybody on that team had a positive plus minus, because the Lakers were just ass the entire preseason, with the exception of the Milwaukee game, which is one of the 4 games that this kid really shined, and I think put himself on the radar, and also endeared himself into the hearts and the psyches of a lot of people. He played 9 minutes, in 9 minutes scored 11 points, helping the team to come back against the Milwaukee Bucks in the preseason and win the game. Subsequently, the following game, he did not play. Coach decision, DNP. And everybody's like, why would JJ Redick do that? All the speculation obviously then started to swirl around, like, oh my God, he outshined Bronny. People don't want him to see him out peak. Yes, you can't do that. You know what I mean? It's making Bronny look bad. So the coach decided not to play him. I don't know why the coach decided not to play him. And again, I can get into this whole space of speculation and all that stuff, but I just want to let the facts be the facts, right? So in the other 2, so we mentioned that game against Milwaukee that he played in, but there were 2 additional games that he played in the summer league. One where he scored 2 points, did not hit a shot, and I think another game where he did not shoot the ball at all. But in those games, literally in those other 2 games that I just mentioned, he only played a handful of minutes. So literally a handful of minutes in those games. So it wasn't a lot of time, you know what I mean, from a production standpoint for him to do anything, much of anything. So he got literally the garbage of garbage, time in those 2 contests. But the final preseason game, which took place on Friday night versus the Golden State Warriors, maybe as a reward for the DNPs and for the not getting the time that he probably should have been given through the preseason, he played the most minutes. He played in 39 of the 48 minutes in that game. Granted, the Lakers lost by 60 points, but Quincy Olivari was the leading scorer in the game with 22 points, and just played phenomenally. Clearly, just again, his poise. I'm most impressed with how poised he is out there, how aware, and obviously he plays hard, works hard, and is just a solid basketball player who appears to be, ready for this level of play. And so again, that's with respect to the preseason. I want to now go into what his goals. Now I do want to mention also that this interview was conducted prior to this weekend. So this is not like a brand new interview. This interview was conducted maybe about a month ago. I will link the full interview in the description for those of you who just want to kind of sit through and listen to it on your own. But it's from LakersNation.com. I'll link it in the description as I stated. But he talked about his goals heading into the actual season. So let's hear from Quincy on that.
Quincy, last thing for you. What are your goals for this coming season here?
I would just love to play in the NBA. It's a lot of things that I can say, but I'm looking forward to what my process looks like. That's really the rewarding part of everything, not being able to put on a Lakers jersey, but what process did I have that got me there? What were the things that I learned on my way there? I'm really most excited to see what that is. So my goal is really to allow myself to take everything that I've learned in college, my 5 years in college, and apply that to the real world. This is my job. Xavier was a job because of NIL and things of that sort. But at the end of the day, like, college and NBA is different. This is my actual job. So I'm excited. I would say a goal of mine would be to, I guess, sign an NBA contract. But
it's a good goal.
Even at that, like I said, the business things I can't control. I can control how hard I play, how many people I positively affect, and how I approach every day. So I would say not letting my biggest goal might be to not let the business side affect who I am as a person.
Wow. Just wow, bro. So again, this kid's realism and the way that he's approaching this entire situation, my heart goes out to him. Obviously, I am cheering him on. I'm rooting for him in the grand scheme of things, but he does understand, man, that this is a business in sports. The competition also takes place outside of your hands, and the boardrooms or the back offices as these individuals are making decisions, that affect these players' lives. By and large, on a larger scale. But it is their decision to give those contracts and award those contracts to whomever they want, whomever they so desire. It's not always fair, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So kudos to him for having as a chief goal, in wrapping up there, is just to not allow, the business side of it to change who he is as a person, even if things should not happen to work out, in his favor, or meaning favorably where he signed, to a roster. However, I can literally guarantee that at this point, and especially with the information that I want to get into moving forward here, there's not an NBA team at this point that if the Lakers drop the ball on this kid moving forward, who won't swoop right in and and do the right thing by him. So let's moving right along. On Saturday, it was announced that the Lakers have rewarded Quincy Olivari with a two-way contract shortly after his heartwarming interview on Friday night after Friday night's game. The Lakers' undrafted rookie has experienced a life-changing 24 hours. Again, scoring 22 points on 8 of 16 shooting in that preseason game versus Golden State on Friday night. Let's dig into the article just a little bit really quickly here. It's not an exaggeration to say that Quincy Olivari's life has significantly changed over the last 24 hours. One day after Olivari starred in the Los Angeles Lakers' preseason finale, the team announced Saturday that it signed Olivari to a two-way contract for the upcoming 2024-25 season. The former collegiate star at Rice and Xavier reacted to the news with a screenshot from Friday night's game. While the Golden State Warriors opted to play most key players Friday night, Lakers coach J.J. Redick rested his normal rotation, which opened an opportunity for rookies like the undrafted Olivari and second-round pick Bronny James to see significant run on the floor. In a team-high 39 minutes, Olivari scored 22 points in 8 of 16 shooting to go along with 7 rebounds, 2 assists in the Lakers' 132-74 preseason loss at Chase Center. He also caught the eye of one of his childhood heroes in Steph Curry, who watched the game from the Warriors bench. Olivari went viral Friday night for his emotional reaction to his post-game conversation with Curry. Instead of reading what he said, I hope this video doesn't get flagged for copyright, man. But if it does, then so be it. I wanted you all to see it because you just need to see it.
Some words with you on the court after the game. What can you tell us about that conversation?
Man, it's crazy because I've liked him since I was in like 6th grade. Like, I don't even know what to say, man, because like that's my favorite player ever. And the first thing he told me was like, I'm a big fan of your game. And like, truth be told, I'm a big fan of him. You know, like I had his jersey. He signed it twice. I used to sleep under that jersey, and like I just wanted to be like him so bad. And so just to be able to meet him, him be able to have some respect for me, and then us to talk in the back, he gave me a pair of his shoes and signed them. Like that meant the world to me, man. Like my dad knows, my mom knows. Like it just means a lot. And like I don't know, it just means a lot.
It just means a lot. So again, man, what is there not to like about this kid? After listening to him, after understanding his story, and again, to have the selective outrage where I can still be annoyed by this whole, nepotism angle and Bronny receiving the guaranteed money, the guaranteed contract without really having to compete. Summer league notwithstanding, it doesn't really mean anything. Preseason didn't really mean anything because it's not like his play during either was predicated on his success or his sticking around and how he was kept around, meaning a two-way contract or a fully guaranteed contract moving forward. But you know what I mean? I can be outraged about all that stuff, but the reality is I literally, man, I love this kid. I love this kid, Quincy Olivari, just because of just his character, you know what I mean, and what I have observed, right? Because I don't know him personally. So I'm just basing this on, I would even venture to say his on the court play actually makes perfect sense after hearing and observing what I've observed. It makes perfect sense now. It makes perfect sense to me why he is this beacon of light that he is, and why he's done what he's done all this time through the collegiate ranks. And I won't, sit here and tell you that I was a fan of Rice or Xavier while he was there, or a fan of him while he was there. I don't really take in much college sports anymore, not as much as I used to. Back in the day, I guess I could be considered a casual, you know what I mean, these days, because I'll just tune in now, man, during the tournaments. I'm like, I don't really have the time like I used to just sit down and consume a lot of the college sports. But this kid's, man, his spirit is beautiful. His mindset is incredible. And what's not to like about him? But more with the article. Oliveri's one of the Lakers' 3 two-way contracts this season alongside Armel Traore and Christian Coloco. Los Angeles is set to open the regular season Tuesday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves, while the South Bay Lakers will take the court November 9th for their season opener against the Salt Lake City Stars. So again, congratulations to Quincy Olivari, who signed a two-way contract with the Los Angeles Lakers this past Saturday. At least, guaranteeing him, money for one season. What that amount of money is has not been disclosed. At least I didn't research it to figure out or find out exactly what that amount of money is. But I do want to share some information on the NBA two-way contract so that you all can, like I did, just learn a bit more about, what this contract entails and what that means. So beginning in the 2017-2018 season, the National Basketball Association added two-way contracts between NBA teams and their minor league NBA G League affiliates through the 2023 or 2022-23 season. Each team could offer 2 contracts per season to players with fewer than 4 years of NBA experience. From 2023 to 24, 3 such contracts per team are allowed. Unlike in the NHL, these contracts are not offered to every aspiring NBA player, but are intended for players whom a team would like to keep on retainer without having to sign a full-time contract. So now going back to, you know what I mean, like kind of how this process is played out, it makes sense. It's like, I mean, this is just the keep you along money, keep you around, like, and hopefully, you know what I mean, like we'll be able to do something with you moving forward, which is the play that the Lakers have made toward signing this young man to this two-way contract. However, some players drafted during the second round of an NBA draft can be retained by teams under a two-way contract as an alternative signing method for the team. Two-way players are typically considered to be the 16th, 17th man, and presumably 18th on a roster. So clearly, with that, the last sentence read, this two-way contract could have just been saved and extended to Bron, but neither here nor there. The two-way contract system benefits young undrafted players who do not want to play professional basketball overseas and want to play in the NBA, as well as those who believe an organizational investment in them is beneficial toward their development. Some player agents have been concerned about this system because in exchange for guaranteed employment at a higher salary than a typical G League player, two-way players give up the freedom to be called up from the G League by any NBA team, possibly one with intent to sign the player to a 10-day contract, which could eventually lead to a full-time NBA roster spot sooner than with a two-way contract. So it is kind of screwed up how you can just kind of give this person this little retainer money, but it takes them out of another team seeing them down there being like, you know what, man, we have an immediate need for this kid and we want to sign him and invest in him with an actual 15-man roster spot and a full contract because we think that this is the kind of player that we want to develop and who deserves it. And it's just kind of screwed up that they don't, allow that flexibility, for other teams once they kind of lock themselves into a two-way contract. Even though they're making more money than the average G League player, there's still much more, there's a ceiling, there that prevents them from making more money unless the team that signed them to the two-way contract, from what I understand just through that reading, will be willing to offer them or could offer them. So, however, some players who have proven themselves during their time under a two-way contract can then be given a full-scale contract for the rest of the season, though they can require removing another player from the team to maintain the maximum of 15 full roster spots. More in this NBA two-way contract salary changes. Originally, excluding time spent before and after the G League season, players on two-way contracts could spend up to 45 days per season with their NBA team, with these players being ineligible for the NBA playoffs. During the 2017-18 season, players earned $75,000 while they were in the G League and roughly up to $204,000 if they spent the maximum 45 days on an NBA roster, increasing yearly up to $92,241 by the 2024-2025 season. So huge contrast there between, even at its height, the $204,000, that a player could potentially earn through this two-way contract by playing in the G League and the 45-day, minimum in the NBA with their NBA team to get, that kind of money dispersed to them. There's a huge disparity between $204,000 and $7.9 million. Nepotism is crazy, man. However, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, during the subsequent suspension of the 2019-2020 NBA season, the league allowed two-way players to become eligible for the 2020 NBA playoffs within their 2020 NBA bubble as a part of the effort to avoid any COVID-19 outbreak spreading among the players. For the 2020-21 season, which was shortened to 72 games and paired with a truncated 2020-21 NBA G League season, the NBA allowed a significant increase in the salary for two-way contracts from the initial $81,955 minimum to an overall salary worth up to $400,049 or $449,155. The amount of time allowed with the NBA team also increased from 45 total days to 50 games. Even this restriction was eventually lifted, permitting two-way players to play the entire regular season and the 2021 NBA playoffs. Players going over the initial 50-game cap receive a veteran's minimum salary. However, it was ultimately revealed to only be for that playoff stretch, as two-way contracts will return to the 50-game barrier the following season, with no playoff appearances whatsoever for them in the process, barring any last-minute promotions to the regular season roster for them. So, that just gives an idea of what, the two-way contract actually entails and what Quincy has just gotten himself into. Again, I think, obviously from what I've, surmised through reading, the only way that this kid could actually receive a spot on the 15-man roster is if, say, for instance, right now, there is Jarrett Vanderbilt, who is injured. I think he's had a foot surgery or something like that, and he's pending return. If Jarrett, for whatever reason, had a setback and they decided to shut him down for the rest of the season, And then they could place Jared on the injured reserve and then move Quincy into that 15-man roster, that roster spot to make him a part of the 15-man roster. If any players to go down and for the season, that he could be kind of conceivably moved over into that space. But yeah, it's just incredibly kind of tragic. You know what I mean? That a player of his caliber is being toyed with in this regard, as it seems. But again, approaching it with the mindset of Quincy, it's a blessing, and regardless, at least he's making some money and able to still keep his hoop dream alive. I guess it's the silver lining. So, before I wrap up this episode, I want to share just a portion of one more article that points to his mindset and mentality, and how, despite what is happening, how there was Steph Curry had him in his feel good, and just everybody recognized when I said I guarantee that some NBA team will take a flyer on this kid if the Lakers don't do right by him. Shout out to the pros, man, who are recognizing this kid, who recognize or recognize optically, and so that it lets me know that we're not crazy and that we're on the right track for feeling the way that we feel. How we direct that energy is obviously that's something altogether different. But Bronny James shines, and Quincy Olivari makes a pitch to stay with the Lakers. This actual article was produced before the announcement was made that he was signed to a two-way contract. But in this article, I extracted this from the middle or toward the end. He said, "I just want a job in the NBA." He said, like, it's the only thing I've wanted. While he also had 6 turnovers, the shooting and passion he played with outweighed any hiccups. To back up really quick, this article was published or written by Dan Woke and published by the Los Angeles Times. "My dad has preached the same thing since I picked up a basketball, that I play hard and that I have fun. I definitely have fun," Olivari said. "I think yesterday when we played the Suns, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker knew my name. And it was just like the biggest surprise. I'm 23 years old, but every time I put on an NBA jersey or come to an NBA practice, I'm that 8-year-old kid that is just begging my dad to take me to an NBA game. So coming out today, I didn't know I was starting until the game when we went through the scout before the game. And I was just like, wow, first career NBA start in the last game. I've had this great feeling all day. Why not capitalize? So I would definitely say I took advantage because I had fun. And not only did I have fun, but I played hard with the opportunity I had, and win or loss, made or missed shot, I know I gave it my all." Again, man, nepotism fucking sucks. And this is a clear victim of, nepotism in this case. Shout out to, all the individuals, man, who've had to endure opportunities being taken from them or who've gotten the short end of the stick, as a result of nepotism. Shout out to Quincy Olivari for having the right mindset, mentality, and the right spirit energy around it, man. Brother, we are pulling for you. Keep being yourself, as you stated, as a goal. I can only hope that you will achieve your ultimate goal of not allowing the business side of this to change you. So that has been the basis of this episode, rather. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't liked this video, please do so really quickly here. Also, subscribe to the channel so that you can receive additional content, such as this when it goes up. I've enjoyed myself in this one, man. Until the next blessing.